spaces. Actually, just show of hands, how many people this is their very first session here at Staples? Wow, more than half. So thank you. My name is Matt. You obviously didn't come here to hear me speak, but I'm the community manager here at Staples. You probably noticed that things have changed here. Part of it is retail had its day, and we really want to transform now into a different kind of business model. And part of that is creating community here in Kelowna. And what we've been doing is offering this space up for free community workshops.
It's not you.
Really centered around helping people work, learn, and grow. If anyone has any questions or like a tour of the rest of the space, because on the other side of this glass, we're doing some really unique and different things, I'm going to be available. I'm also here as well to hand out their thank you, so I'm going to be here as well. Because Chris is a good dear friend, and we facilitate and actually co-host other things together, and it's just an honor to be able to introduce her. But before I bring her on the stage and let her take over, I do want to acknowledge that we are in the unceded traditional territories of the Okanagan and Silex people. It's a great honor that I get to now introduce Chris finally. And I'm going to let Chris talk about what it is that she does and what her talk is tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Chris. And look at that, even more people coming in. I love it. I love it, yeah.
Hi, Tom.
It's a litmus test for whether or not you can attend Chris is if you can open the door. I love it. I'm going to shut up now.
The rest have to stand outside.
Cheers.
Thanks, Pat. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. We all lead busy lives, and I appreciate the time that you've all taken to come here tonight. And just know that this is for you, this is for me, but this is for everybody, because what you learn in these spaces, you can take home and apply, and not just me, whoever speaks here. There's always skills, tools, knowledge, and wisdom that we take and we apply in our own lives. And so I congratulate you for taking the time and finding space in your life to grow and learn. So again, thank you. A lot of new faces in the room for me. Thank you. This is absolutely amazing. I'll just give you a little bit about me, because I want you to know why I think that I'm qualified to sit here and speak to you. I started my working life as a lawyer, and I was a litigation lawyer. I practiced insurance defense litigation, which means courtroom. I did courtroom work. So my job, and I had to be good at it or I wouldn't have kept my job, was to marshal evidence, marshal information, law, facts, and to create a cogent argument to put in front of a judge or a judge and jury. And so again, if I wasn't good at that, I probably wouldn't have kept my job. And I did that for 8 years, following which I had 2 kids. I was married to a lawyer who's never home, and I couldn't do it all. So I stopped, but then I missed it. So I went back to work part-time in the courts as a deputy judge, and I learned to write. First of all, I learned to manage a court, because people came without counsel. And I felt it was really important that they understood. Am I speaking quickly for you guys? We have a couple here from Russia, woo, that I know from Rotary, and so I didn't mean to point out. I just want to make sure you get what I'm talking about. Okay. So I took very seriously that I had people to manage. I wanted them to have a good experience. I wanted them to understand why they won, why they lost, and to go into a situation that's really kind of scary. And there's a lot of angry people. I felt it was my job to help them through that. So it's partly why I did that. And the other part to tell you that is I wrote all my judgments. I didn't want to be overturned or appealed. So I learned to write. And I'm going to be a good business person tonight and tell you that I brought my books if you're interested in the end. And this is the last thing I'm going to say about that. So am I qualified to speak? I think I am. I've also been learning this information for over probably some 24 years. And I have used my body and my life as a laboratory. And so whatever I tell you, I know works for me. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you, but something like it could work for you. So the more knowledge and the more skills that you can take away from these things, it just broadens your horizons in so many ways. I have to apologize for the title of tonight. Matt and I were doing a little bit of experimenting over how we could get more people into talks, and we noticed that there was a lot of turnout when we had a negative focus, and I laughed. So, which is why I called it Fear and Struggle. I am not going to talk tonight largely about fear and struggle. Do you know why? Because what you focus on expands. What you focus on expands. What you focus on expands. So anybody who wants to talk about something that's negative in nature and leave you with it, well, that's what you're left with. So tonight, and perhaps if you don't want to be here, I guess this is the time to go, but the very small part of tonight is going to be about what fear and struggle is bringing you without you even realizing. You know, how not to create counterintentions in your life, because then you're actually pushing things away. So here's what's coming for you tonight. I'm going to talk about quantum science. Now, that's actually kind of a joke. I would never pretend to be a theoretical physicist. But I'm going to give you some very basic information about the nature of reality. If you ask me, there are two very important things that we need to understand in life to create more grace and ease, to have a better experience, to deal with less shit, let's face it. Number one is, who is this? Who is this? And number two, what is the nature of reality? What is life? And so how can I better leverage me in this place I live, in this world that we live? That's why tonight I'm going to talk about the building blocks of how to create a better life experience. And we're going to start with science, which is our best story, because science explains why we're here. And really, well, anyway, that's been considered the most reliable, credible evidence explaining how life works for us. So that's kind of the foundation of where we're going to go tonight. We're going to start with quantum science. Then I'm going to talk about creative mental visualization. So this is the tool that you're going to go home with to understand how to better visualize the life that you want. And we're going to practice, and we're going to practice twice, so that when you leave here, you understand exactly what the elements are that you need to practice. And I'm hoping that you leave tonight and tomorrow you create that container for the rest of your life. We need the habit, we need the discipline, we need the container to be able to create that space within which to create clarity and a focus that is going to bring in a better life experience. And tonight you're going to understand exactly how that works. Then I will address the fear and struggle and how we are unwittingly perhaps creating counterintentions, and that is the negative focus, just for a short time. What not to do. If we have time, I'm going to talk a little bit about the heart math piece and how we can create more coherence. Heart's down here. I do know what I'm talking about. Heart-brain balance in our lives in order to create more quiet in our systems, because we are so jacked on stress and our troubles and all that's going on in the world. And really, a lot of us spend most of our days overwhelmed. And the fact of the matter is that that's our inner state. That's our inner state creating what we see in our lives. So, any questions, comments, concerns, or observations before I begin? Okay, is that cool?
What is your book about? Sorry.
It's called, no, thanks. It's called Showing Up, Becoming the Me I Want to Be, Aligning Your Life and Work for True Success. I've been in Kelowna for 3 years. I was in Ontario before this, and I spent 9 years in the high schools as a motivational speaker, whatever. And I spent a lot of time, not just talking, but I would ask kids. I love kids. They're just my jam, young people. I hate old people. I'm just kidding. That's not true, because I am one. So I would ask them questions, and I would ask basic understandings about. I wanted to see where they were, knowing the information that I had, knowing the world that they're going into. Are they equipped to really know, what they want to be when they grow up? That's what that book is about. It's the building blocks for them, but not one student's bought it. It's always the parents. It's always adults. So we are students of all ages. And there are 5 chapters in that book. The first one is all about responsibility. And until we take 100% responsibility for our lives, the good, the bad, and the ugly, we can't ascend that first step into where we're going in life. And knowing that we create everything. We are the architects of our life. Then I address the brain, the heart, the body, and the spirit. And it's kind of cool. I set it up for kids. I set it up into smaller packets of information called flight points. There are 21 flight points. So you can read they're all related and they flow, but you can read one and put it down and do a little more research or think about it or contemplate, make notes, whatever. So that's what that is all about. So thank you for asking. I appreciate that. All right, the fathers of quantum mechanics. Who knows? Who knows who the first theoretical physicist was who laid the whole foundation for Max Planck? Anybody heard that? Yeah, of course. So around the turn of the last century, so the early 1900s, Max Planck determined at the time what was the unit of matter that was in the universe. So this was the smallest unit or measurement of matter, and he called it quanta. And that was the big first step. There's more to it than that, but there's a lot of people I want to bring into this explanation. He won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1918, and this is generally regarded as the first essential stepping stone in the development of quantum theory, which has revolutionized the way we see and understand the subatomic world. Around 1905, Albert Einstein, kind of on the same wave, brought in his theory of relativity. And the relativity was, how does one piece react relative to the other? And his work was more in the cosmos. But the basic unit was the light photon. So that is what we now know as a particle. But it's the movement, it's the nature, it's what a light photon is and how it behaves that began to grow into something that other people understood. Werner Heisenberg was a German theoretical physicist, and he won the Nobel Prize in 1932. He was working on the atomic program in the Second World War for the Nazis at the same time that the Manhattan Project in the States was moving forward. And so the ideas of nuclear fusion and fission, and again, it's how electrons and neutrons create energy together, that was being developed. In 1926, Erwin Schrödinger, who was an Austrian physicist, I forgot to talk about Niels Bohr, was a Dutch theoretical physicist who also lent a hand. He was a young one and understood theoretical physics very early. And he developed the allotropic forms of hydrogen, which became part of this nuclear fission and nuclear fusion theory. And Erwin Schrödinger was an Austrian physicist, and the beauty of his work was not just about the basic building block of matter or the basic building block of life, but how they behave together. What they're talking about, light photons, is the stuff of life. What we're talking about is what's in our bodies, what's in the air, the walls, the trees, everything that we see, feel, touch, note with our senses. The basic building blocks are these subatomic particles. And here's the cool thing, it's not matter. They're known as mini tornadoes. So when you think about a tornado or wind, you can't see wind, can you? You can see it move in the leaves, you can see it in the trees, you can feel it, but you can't see wind. Same thing in a tornado. You can't see the wind in the tornado. You see the dust it picks up and all the other debris. That's what these are. They are units of matter, but they are energy. They are simply energy. There's nothing you could hang your hat on with these particles, which is really very interesting. John Archibald Wheeler, he was an American theoretical physicist. He worked in the process during the Second World War. He broadened the idea behind nuclear fission, and together with Gregory Bright, they created the concept of the Bright-Wheeler process. So this was the beginning. How many of you have heard of the double slit experiment? Right. So Wheeler's work talked about the delayed choice experiment. And so what I recommend you do, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this, but the double slit experiment, I encourage you to look it up. If you look, there's a cartoon, and I use this in my coaching because I guess cartoons are meant for kids, and this is what I understand. It's great graphics, great explanation, and this is a Superman type cartoon character called Dr. Quantum, and he explains super well about what the double slit experiment proved with great graphics. So you watch that, you will understand. So this is the nature of the energy in the universe. We live in a universe pregnant with possibility. And what that is the nature of the light photon in a wave form, waiting for something to happen. And much of these photons in life are what are in the universe, everything around us, waiting for the observer, who is us. He's gonna bust the door.
Slide. Slide.
It's a hell of a thing, I know. Thanks for coming, buddy. So what was happening around the world is people were now familiar with this double slit experiment. And what this experiment generally shows is that photons will behave in a manner together, much like children on the playground. They're running around doing whatever. And as soon as there is an observer, suddenly there is an ordered performance. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the experiments that have been done about that, which is really fascinating stuff. I used to listen to James Arthur Ray, and he would talk about this, and he would say that everything exists as a possibility until you think about it, and now it's a particle. So it's how the light photons organize themselves into the stuff of life. And this is what gives rise to the idea that thoughts become things. This is why creative mental visualization, feelingization, whatever you want to call it, works. This is what we come equipped with, is the tools to create the life that we want or that we don't want. This is what we're going to try and avoid tonight, is to learn what we may be doing unwittingly that is creating exactly what we don't want. Essentially, the double slit experiment showed that the photons that would go through a slit would appear in the back wall as a wave until there was an observer, until there was a scientist who had a theory or an expectation. That's a big word, expectation. And then the particles would look a little different. So look it up. Look it up. It'd be a much better explanation than I can ever give, and you will understand more about the science, the story of life that's behind why we need, it's critical for us at this point in the world to learn how to create more of what we want in this life. We need happy people in this world. We need to learn how to leverage these gifts that we come into this world with into something that looks more like a better experience of our lives. And we need to teach this. We need to talk about it. We need to take it from here and learn and grow it. Because honestly, our world's a mess. When we value, think about this, and we show that we value things that we pay for. When we value entertainment more than childcare, education, medical care, that's just messed up shit. If you pay attention to the media, there's a story every day about some sort of natural disaster or economic failure or violence. It's a lot of negativity. And this feeds into the idea that let's keep people anxious and on edge and overwhelmed, because then what do? We spend to feel better, which we know doesn't work. Right? This is an internal process. Nothing outside of us is ever going to cure our ails or what it is that we need. This is always an internal. Leadership, happiness is all an inside job. I want to read you a little bit. First of all, I promised you some experiments. So I used to, I still would like to, but I used to coach athletes. And this was my program. This is the kind of stuff I would talk about with athletes. Do you know that in the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics, the Russians took some liberties with their athletic cohort? And they divided their athletes into 4 groups, roughly. I couldn't tell you how they did it, what sports, but roughly a quarter of the athletic cohort trained for their individual sport 100% physically. The second group trained 75% physically, about 25% mentally. Hello, thank you. You've been here before, you did that right. The third group trained about 50-50, mental, creative mental imagery, and physical preparation. And the last group trained 75% mental creative visualization, 25% physically for their sport. Which group garnered statistically significantly more medals than the other? The other groups, the last one. And this shocked the world. This is when the idea of mental preparation and creative mental visualization took the sports world by storm. That's pretty wild stuff, isn't it? Okay. Speaking of the Russians, quantum biologists Patton and Gariev carried out a series of experiments at the Russian Academy of Sciences, and the results appeared in a 1995 scientific paper. They tested the behavior of light particles, otherwise known as photons, in the presence of human DNA. In a vacuum tube, the photons appeared scattered about the tube in a random fashion. When samples of human DNA were introduced to the tube, they arranged themselves in an orderly fashion, the same time with the same DNA. The human DNA clearly had an effect on the light particles. Further, after the DNA was removed from the tube, they remained ordered, as if the DNA was still there. Ramifications of that. Our own DNA speaks to the universe. And what programs our DNA? We are not slaves to our DNA. We are not slaves to our cells. There's that layer of epigenetics. There's a layer of thought that lays above the expression of our genes in our bodies. It is the medium that we create with our thoughts, our feelings, our nutritional habits, our exercise. Everything that we do to care for every facet of us is the cultural medium in which our cells grow. Okay, number 2. In 1993, a report in a journal called Advances confirmed earlier experiments that showed that human emotion has a direct influence on the way cells function in the body. This experiment was designed to determine whether the emotion DNA connection remains constant following a separation, and here's what happened. A swab of tissue was taken from a volunteer's mouth, put in a petri dish, and carried to another room in the same building. The volunteer was shown a series of video clips that were meant to elicit strong emotions. The volunteer was hooked up to a monitor, as was the DNA sample in the petri dish. When the volunteer donor experienced peaks and dips in emotion, according to the videos shown, so did the DNA. The same experiment was carried out after the DNA was flown 350 miles away with the same result. Then both volunteer and DNA were hooked up to an atomic clock. The emotional responses were identical. Pretty cool, eh? Who studies this stuff? I just think, what would make you think to do this? But I'm glad somebody did, because the ramifications are startling, really. In experiments conducted between 1992 and 1995, human DNA was isolated in a glass beaker and then exposed to a powerful form of feeling known as coherent emotion. This state is created intentionally by using specifically designed mental and emotional self-management techniques, which involve intentionally quieting the mind, shifting one's awareness to the heart area, this is heart math, by the way, and focusing on positive emotions. The result was that the human emotion, the coherent emotion group, changed the shape of the DNA without any physical touch. How many of you are aware of the TM experiments in 1970s, transcendental meditation? Right, and there's all kinds of, this is Lynn McTaggart's work in her Power of Intention and Power of 8. And that is the power of prayer. When we get together and we send thoughts and emotion to a place in order to achieve a result, for example, to stop violence, to stop war, conflict, any other kind of violence. What we're finding more and more is that's working. How does that happen? Again, because our thoughts become things. Now, is there anything more important in life to know? I don't think so. I think this is pretty super stuff to know. Something else I recommend is this book, besides my coaching program, called The Secrets of the Lost Mode of Prayer by Greg Braden. If you don't have it, highly recommend it. And it's a little book. I don't think it was all that expensive. I want to read you a little bit more about John Archibald Wheeler. Perhaps renowned Princeton University physicist John Wheeler, PhD, who was a contemporary of Albert Einstein, has best described the revolutionary physics of an energy that connects all of creation. I remember reading an interview with Wheeler in 2002 following his recovery from a serious illness. When he was asked what direction his work would now take, he responded that he viewed his illness and recovery as an opportunity. It was a catalyst inviting him to focus upon the single question that had eluded him for so long. What is that question? The interviewer asked. Wheeler replied that he planned to dedicate his life to understanding the relationship between consciousness and the universe. I wondered what that word meant for a long time, consciousness. It's simply awareness. It's your thinking. By the way, on that note, His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, was asked a while ago what he thought the most pressing problem in the world was. A couple years ago. Do you know what he said? Not violence, not poverty, not hate. Critical thinking. That's what's missing in our world, is critical thinking. We give up our power too often. We've been conditioned to do so. But we have to take it back. And this is a way to take it back, to make our life work for us the way that we need it to. This is how we change the world, one person at a time. In the world of traditional physics, this statement in and of itself is enough to shake the foundations of accepted theory and cause the fathers of modern textbooks to roll over in their graves. Historically, concepts about consciousness and the fabric of the universe aren't used in the same sentence. Wheeler, however, didn't stop there. In subsequent years, he elaborated upon his theories, suggesting that consciousness is more than a byproduct of the universe. He proposed that we live in a participatory universe. We are a part of the universe that is a work in progress. We are a part of the universe that is a work in progress. We are tiny patches of the universe looking at itself and building itself. That kind of messes you up, I know. The implications of Wheeler's statements are vast. In the language of 20th century science, he's reiterating what ancient traditions stated millennia ago. It is consciousness that creates. So it's our thinking that creates. I want to share another story from Greg. This book, honestly, I mean, look at it. It's dog-eared. It's a lot of valuable information in this. So are all of you familiar with who Greg Braden is? Okay, some of you aren't. He is a spiritual teacher, vast experience. What his focus is to bring ancient knowledge when people had a belief and practices that involved being in tune with the earth and the cosmos, which we are part of, which we've gotten away from, which we don't even know about anymore. We've become completely disconnected with this. But those ancient traditions have been lost. They've been written down. They were passed word of mouth. And those people are gone. So he's taken his job in this world. He used to be an astrophysicist or systems analyst, and then he turned to this, which I find really interesting. So he looks at ancient traditions and he travels all over the world to speak to indigenous cultures, those cultures that don't have much brush with life as we live it today. So he likes to go to monasteries, and this is one such story. For 14 days, we'd acclimated our bodies to altitudes of more than 16,000 feet above sea level. And as they settled on the monastery floor and froze and waited for the abbot to appear, Greg wondered if it was all worth it. And this is what he says. I focused my attention directly into the eyes of the beautiful and timeless-looking man seated lotus-style in front of me, the abbot of the monastery. Through a translator, I just asked him the same question that I'd asked each monk and nun that we'd met through our pilgrimage. When we say your prayers, I began, what are you doing? When we see you tone and chant for 14 and 16 hours a day, when we see the bells, the bowls, the gongs, the chimes, the mudras and the mantras on the outside, what is happening to you on the inside? As the translator shared the abbot's reply, a powerful sensation rippled through my body, and I knew that this was the reason we'd come to this place. You have never seen our prayers, he answered, because a prayer can't be seen. Adjusting the heavy wool robes beneath his feet, the abbot continued, what you have seen is what we do to create the feeling in our bodies, because feeling is the prayer. Think about how we're taught to pray. We're taught simply to recite words. We're taught to just think and ask. We're not taught to feel. And this abbot has said, feeling is the prayer. Prayer is perhaps one of the most ancient and mysterious of human experiences. It's also one of the most personal. Even before the prayer appeared in spiritual practices, the oldest records of the Christian and Gnostic traditions used words such as communion to describe our ability to speak with the unseen forces of the universe. The operative word there is communion. So how do we merge what it is that we're thinking and feeling into the universe to create what it is that we want? How do we create communion and emergence with our prayers? That's the really important part. Now, this story blew my mind because this one tells you exactly what it is that he's talking about. Greg wanted to join his friend. He calls David, not his real name. As David said, he was going to journey out into the desert for a purpose, and I'll just read you this. It had been a time of extreme drought in the high deserts of northern New Mexico, where Greg lives, when my native friend David invited me to an ancient stone circle to pray rain. David laughed. This is the reason that we have come. This stone circle is a medicine wheel that has been here for as long as my people can remember. He continued, the wheel itself has no power. It serves as a place of focus for the one invoking the prayer. You could think of it as a roadmap, a map between humans and the forces of this world. Again, the medicine circle had no power. So where you do this doesn't have the power. I wasn't prepared for what I saw next. I watched carefully as David removed his shoes, gently placed his naked feet into the circle, and honored the four directions and all of his ancestors. Slowly, he placed his hands in front of his face in a praying position, closed his eyes, and became motionless. Oblivious to the heat of the midday desert sun, his breathing slowed and became barely noticeable. After only a few minutes, he took a deep breath, opened his eyes, looked at me, and said, okay, let's go. Our work here is finished. Expecting to see dancing or at least chanting, I was surprised by how quickly his prayer began and then ended. Already, I asked? I thought you were going to pray for rain. David's reply to my question has been the key that has helped so many to understand this kind of prayer. As he sat on the ground to lace up his shoes, David looked up at me and smiled. No, he replied. I said that I would pray rain. If I had prayed for rain, it could never happen. Later in the day, David explained what he meant by this statement. He began by describing how the elders of his village had shared the secrets of prayer with him when he was a young boy. The key, he said, is when we ask for something to happen. We give power to what we do not have. When we ask for something to happen, we give power to what we don't have. So we are energizing the loss or the lack of what it is that we've perceived we don't have. This is the counterintention I'm going to talk about pretty soon. Prayers for healing empower the sickness. Prayers for rain empower the drought. Continuing to ask for these things only gives more power to the things that we would like to change, he said. I think about David's words often and what they could mean in our lives today. If we pray for world peace, for example, while feeling tremendous anger toward those who lead us into war or even war itself, we may inadvertently be fueling the very conditions that lead to the opposite of peace. With half of the world's nations now engaged in armed conflict, I often wonder what role millions of well-intentioned prayers for peace each day may be playing, and how a slight shift in perspective could possibly change that role. Looking back at David, I asked, if you didn't pray for rain, then what did you do? He said, it's simple. This is important. I began to have the feeling of what rain feels like. I felt the feeling of rain on my body and what it feels like to stand with my naked feet in the mud of our village plaza because there has been so much rain. I smelled the smells of rain on the earthen walls in our village and felt what it feels like to walk through fields of corn chest high because there has been so much rain. I prayed rain. It's here, it's now, it's happening, and we use our senses to feel that within our imaginations, within our minds, and within our hearts. That's prayer. Following the prayers of rain, he described how feelings of thanks and appreciation were the completion of the prayers, like the Amen of Christianity. Rather than giving thanks for what he created, however, David told me that he felt grateful for the opportunity to participate in creation. Through our thanks, we honor all possibilities while bringing the ones we choose to this world. Research has shown that it's precisely this quality of gratitude and appreciation that releases the life-affirming chemistry of powerful hormones in our bodies and strengthens our immune systems. It's these chemical changes within us that quantum effects carry beyond our bodies through the conduit of the mysterious substance that appears to connect all of creation. In the simplicity of a knowledge offered long ago, David had just shared the sophisticated inner technology as the wisdom of our lost mode of prayer. Any comments, questions, or observations?
Everything.
Yes, it does. And you know what? It's a tweak. We're there. We're 90% of the way there. We just have to tweak a few things that we do, things that we think, feel, say, and do to create something completely different in our lives. And like Wayne Dyer, as he then was, said, if we want our lives to change, we have to change our lives. We have to do something completely different. And in my life, I found the bigger risks that I've taken, the further I've stepped out, the more that life has rewarded me. Okay. I think what we'll do now is let's talk about how we are going to do this creative mental visualization tonight. Thinking about the word communion, or thinking about the merging that we want to do into our future and into our dreams. Having heard what the abbot described to Greg Braden, having heard the pray rain example, what we want to do is we want to create, first of all, a picture in our imagination, a picture in our mind's eye of what it is we want. So what I'm going to let you do right now is I'm going to let you think about one thing that you'd like in your life, that you'd like to change in your life. Maybe it's a thing. Understanding that we have no power over the details. Details and time are not our job. Neither can we control other people. So for example, you want your love attention to come to you. You can't control that person. What you can ask for is to have a beautiful love that you want, and whoever shows up is that person. But again, we cannot control what is outside of us. So thinking about what it is that one thing that we want. Now you're not limited to one, but tonight that's what we're going to work on. What does that look like? Use all of your senses. What do you see in this? So what you're doing is you're stepping wholly into the picture and looking out through your eyes. You are living in your movie. You're the director, you're the actor, you're the screenplay writer, you're the director, everything. So you are in your movie, having and enjoying what it is you want. This object of your attention, or this thing, or this experience, or whatever it is you want to have. What do you see in the picture? What are you wearing? What do you smell? What do you touch? Use every sense you have. What are you experiencing moment by moment? Are you walking? Are you running? Are you sitting in an office? Are you outside? Again, what are you wearing? Who is with you generally? What people are with you? Use all of your senses. Smelling, tasting, feeling, seeing. And then what pulls the trigger that we've learned tonight is the feeling. How does it feel for you to be in this movie, to experience what it is that you want? How does it feel? Name the emotion. What is the feeling? Where is it in your body? By the way, this is the language that communicates to the universe, and this is partly what I teach in Heart Math, is talking about, first of all, naming the emotions of the different experiences that you have, because we're not conversant with that. Nobody's taught us to do this. And then moreover, what are the feelings? What are the visceral feelings in your body that come with anger or that come with pride? Is it light? Is it heavy? Is it expansive? Is it contractive? Is it tingly? Is it warm and effusive? Does it move? Is it stuck? Does it hurt? You know what I mean? So this is what you want to do as you're describing your emotion for yourself and your feeling to have this thing that you want. What is that language? What is developing as you are experiencing? Yeah.
Something of you. I know you do beautiful meditations to take people into visualization.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Oh, I'm going to. We're just setting it up right now. Because there's no point, right, getting into it if people are thinking about it while we're supposed to be merging and in communion. So thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Okay, how are we set up? How are we set up for that? Is everybody ready to try this? Is anybody not ready yet? Okie dokie. You're all sitting comfortably, so I recommend, and I'm not sure why I'm recommending this, but feet, if you can get your feet flat, not crossed. I don't think you want to cross the energy of your body, so if you could keep your limbs kind of just apart and comfortable. Yeah, that's good. Now, you can do this eyes open unless you're distracted. Eyes closed maybe is better. And what I'd like you to do is to begin to breathe. And breathe in a little deeply, more deeply than usual. In through your nose and out through your nose. And breathe into the very center of your being, just easily and gently. And think about the relaxation that you are creating for yourself right now. This is a beautiful, beautiful space to be. And as you continue to breathe, you can think about ease and grace that you are bringing into your body and into your mind as you create this beautiful vision that you're going to create in a moment. You are seeding the field for beautiful growth. You are watering your dream at the moment. You are bringing your desire to life. And you're bringing your own support to this dream. Now, as you are in that quiet, centered space of your consciousness, in the center of your being, go now to that movie that you have created within yourself. As you are walking or running or driving or speaking or whatever it is that you are doing, maybe you're sitting. What is around you? What do you see? What are the colors? Are there trees? Are there people? Is it an office building? What are you wearing? What is happening? Who is with you? What are they wearing? What is the tenor of your conversation? What do you smell? What are the smells of your dream? Is there a taste? And what are you feeling? Is there a wind? Is there sun in your skin? Again, are you in an office building? Are you on a farm? Is there activity? Can you feel the sweat trickle between your shoulder blades? Can you feel the wind on your face? How does your body feel in this dream? And as you look around you, are people happy? Are you happy? Are you smiling? Is your heart smiling? Do you love what you're doing? The people around you, are they happy? Is this a sunny day? Perhaps it's quiet. Maybe it's foggy. Maybe you are surrounded by people, or maybe you're alone. Are you driving? What are you driving? What does it smell like? Now take a trip down into your heart and your gut. How does it feel to be in this dream? How does it feel to be in this experience of life that you're experiencing right now? That is your life. This is your life, and you're entitled to have it. And it is right behind you and coming closer. Do you feel expansive and joyful and blissful and happy? Whatever that is for you. Are you laughing? Are you singing? Are you dancing? Do people see you being happy? Can people see that smile on your face? Is it exciting, exhilarating? Do you feel expansive? Is this the start of more to come? Where's that feeling in your body? Spread it out. That love, the excitement, the appreciation, and the gratitude you feel in your gut and your heart right now, feel that expand within you. Is it warm? Is it effusive? Is it moving? Is it a warm, golden, moving energy? Is this something that you can radiate to others? And just enjoy. Just enjoy this vision that you are creating for yourself. Enjoy this life that you are creating for yourself. And smile, because this is your gift to you. And it's beautiful. And know that you can go into this vision anytime you feel like, and you can change whatever you want. You can change the colors, you can change the people, you can change the focus. You can change it to whatever you like, or you can keep it the same. It's totally up to you. And nobody has to know this. It's nobody else's opinion that matters. This is for you. And trust. Trust that the universe will deliver a version of this to you according to what is best for you, and get excited. What is the universe going to do for me? How is the universe going to create this for me and deliver it to me? I am so excited. It's like the day before Christmas. You know you've got presents under that tree, and you know they're for you because you've seen your name on them. You just don't know what they are yet. Get excited. Okay. Come on back. How many of you have done that before? Perfect. Did it get better? Yeah, it gets better with practice, like anything. Any questions, comments, observations? How did you feel thinking about this? Yeah. Andre?
Thank you. I feel great. So I felt a connection.
Great.
Because there are many efforts when we want to change something, but we have to understand that everything is a connection.
Yes.
So we have to think about the system in total, not just in particular stuff. But I have just a scientific question to you.
I know you do. Yeah.
Okay. So you told us about the brain rain.
Yes.
So we see the results that praying for is much more than just praying about brain rain. So what if, for example, 100 people, 1,000 people will sit all together in a circle and will pray rain? Will it be multiplied
Yes.
effect?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. When I talked about the TM I never say this properly, transcendental meditation practices in the 70s. And there's an author by the name of Lynn McTaggart. Another two books that I recommend you look up is Power of Intention and Power of 8. And she writes about the experiences in these books, and these are up to date. This is work in the last several years, 2015 and forward, where she has she's created an online platform where people from all over the world get together, meditate. And I took part in one, and this was the start. And I actually have a group where we get together once a month and we create. It's a mastermind power of intention group, the work, and she's not the only one, but she's created this platform where there have been significantly statistical changes in whatever the focus has been. Yep.
What about the idea if all governments on the planet will unify approaches of the education of kids and children, students, and will teach them creativity, system analysis approach? What do you think it will change the world for the better, more faster?
Yeah, we should be bringing this into the education system. This is where we should be.
And unifying approaches for education in different countries, different nations will help. Yeah, for this. Okay, thank you.
Beautiful idea. Who was it that said something like world peace? Yeah, great concept. Kind of interesting. I forget where I was going to go with that. I had a comment. It'll come back. But thank you for your comments. Yeah, I mean, this is think about the theories that I've talked about that have been around for over 100 years. In fact, an English physicist by the name of Thomas Young addressed the Royal Society in London in November 1803. And Thomas Young talked about an old homespun version of the double slit experiment in the early 1800s. This information has been around. You find as you do the research and learn more and more, it's been around for a long time. Why haven't we advanced further with this, is my question. Because there are other forces that don't want this to happen, which is a whole other discussion. But we're set up. We're set up to fall. That's what we are. So it's up to us, which is why I do this work I do, why I talk about these things, so that we can learn and change our lives and then teach other people. Simple, right? This is how we change the world, one person at a time. One person tells how many are here, and then all of you go tell how many. But more than that, this doesn't do the work, right? Being a model for how this work works in your life is the way to teach. That's how you influence, right? And the way that you influence, you're going to meet people on the same wavelength. You get that? That's kind of where we're going with this, is to raise our vibration. We all vibrate. The nanotornadoes I was talking about that are completely energy, there's no matter involved. Our bodies are not material. What you're sitting on is not material. It's a bunch of those nanotornadoes. There's just a lot of them in more dense material. Do you understand that? We're all vibration. And we're in this divine matrix, as Greg Braden calls it. We are connected because we're all vibration, but we all vibrate at very different rates because we're all a very curious mix of a lot of things. How our bodies are set up, how we think. I mean, it's just a million things. I'm not even going to start to name things off, but we're all so unique in the expression of who we are. That is our gift. That is our gift. It's how we change the world, is being us, the best version that we can be. And this is how we leverage the God-given gifts that we came into this life with, and it's the ability to create. We all have a curious mix of qualities. You know, discipline, hard work, creativity. There's 1,000 words I could use to describe the mix of qualities that we use to further our lives, and that gives us our uniqueness. But the one thing that we all have in common is we have a brain and we have a heart. Some say we have souls. Not sure what the difference is, but we have a spirit. There is something that animates all of this. And that is what I'm talking about, leveraging in this world that's waiting to be leveraged. Right? Life wants us to succeed. Let's get with the program. Let's get doing this stuff. I don't even, what time is it? There's so much we can do. 7, okay. I won't be much longer because I don't want to suck all the oxygen out of the air. We're going to stand up in a moment and do a bit of a sound breath, and then I'm going to talk about how we're creating counter intentions, which you're going to get because you understand how all of this works. And then I'm going to do a little bit of heart math. But I want you to understand something in terms of your creative abilities. Neurons are specialized cells that are in our brains and our nervous system, and they're designed to carry a charge, an impulse. And so the impulse goes from neuron to neuron to neuron, and that is a thought or a memory. So they're specially designed for that. Do you know that you have sensory neurites or neurons in the ganglia of your heart? And you have more neurons in your upper gut than you have in your spinal column. So we think with our hearts and our guts. It's a beautiful thing to know, because that old saying about follow your gut, follow your heart is true. It's an old saying, but it's true. This is how we create. Remember, feeling is the prayer. pray rain. It's already happened. You're in it. And then let it go. Now, is this an overnight thing? Hell no. We're talking particles. They're microscopic. They're little things. A lot of those things have to rearrange for things to show up in your life. But here's how you look for the results. So after tonight, get curious. First of all, start a practice, please. But second, get curious about what's going to come from what you've asked for. And if there's something else you want that you think, oh, I know, advice that I got years and years ago was pick something to start with that you kind of sort of want. It's the big ones that seem to take more time because there's a lot of emotion behind that. And we have to be, unless we're very practiced in how we pray rain as opposed to pray for rain, we could be pushing those things away. So pick something you kind of sort of want and work on that one. And then look for evidence. So you know that thing about the albatross? When you're shipwrecked and you see the albatross, you're near land. Because birds don't live in the water, obviously. Okay, so you're looking for things. So as Kevin Trudeau used to talk about, the black Mercedes. In fact, funny enough, this happened to me the other day. These things happen for me all the time, I can tell you. I've worked in this for a long time. I was practicing this talk, and I was going to talk about the black Mercedes, because that's something that we can all see. We know what a black Mercedes looks like. I thought about this talk, I thought about talking about that. I drove to the grocery store, and guess what I parked beside? A black Mercedes. Now, some people will go, well, that's just stupid, that's just coincidence. No, it's not. This is how the universe speaks to us in the signs that we get. That's the albatross. So look for evidence in your world of how you're bringing in this stuff. What is showing up? Especially the weird stuff that you wouldn't normally see. How is the universe showing you that what you're doing is working? So look for evidence. It could be, I don't know, on a billboard. It could be a chance conversation you had with somebody you know or someone you don't know. It could be on TV. You could suddenly read about it. So look for these things. And when you find your first miracle, you're going to be sold. Right now, this is theoretical for you, perhaps, some of you. Some of you do this all the time. I know you do. But rejoice. This is you being you. This is you leveraging you in the universe. And this is the first sign that you're passing. Okay, so if you could all stand up for a moment. I learned this a couple weeks ago, and I want to share it. I heard Lynn McTaggart interview Greg Braden, and he was talking about, see you later, thanks for coming. He was talking about the book Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert. We have neuropeptides that are created in periods of great emotion, and what happens is they get stuck in the organs which are, for example, if we suffer trauma. This is just an example. We have neuropeptides and ligands that get stuck in the organs associated with that trauma. And what Greg Braden said, and I didn't realize this, I have that book at home, I read it for years, and I talked to athletes about it, but these neuropeptides want to be metabolized. And do you know how we metabolize them? With breath. So we're going to do, for 30 seconds, and for Pete's sake, don't pass out. That's bad for business. So we're going to do something called sound breath. This is easy, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to bring your arms into it, and you're going to go, ha, 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 ha. Who's feeling woozy? All right. I don't know how many neuropeptides or ligands you just metabolized, but you metabolized a few and you re-energized yourselves. Okay, have a seat. It's a good wake up, eh? Like, it's getting warm in here. Right? You guys warm? Yeah. Holy crap, I am too. You can all listen. It's free.
So on that topic of trauma, for example, so a lot of people, they've gone through a lot.
Yep.
And a lot of that becomes their identity. So they're angry or sad.
It also becomes lodged in the body. That's really what I was talking about. That's the pain in your body that you're like, why is this always sore? Why do I have this injury that doesn't go away? That's that.
Right. So then, the work of Joe Dispenza, how
Perfect.
brain, right? We can rewire, reprogram.
Yeah.
But I wonder what your thoughts are. Do we
My opinion, there's a lot of theories about that. And a lot of them is, let's go back and let's look at that and let's analyze that. And that's a lot of the therapeutic effect, is to keep going back to what the problem is. What did I start the talk by saying? What you focus on expands. What you focus on expands. What you focus on expands. Don't stay there. Sometimes it's cool to know where this stuff comes from, to know where you want to go. But sometimes you don't know. And in my opinion, I don't think you need to know. You want to do, so his work in Power versus Force, Dr. David Hawkins, was a psychiatrist in the 1970s, and he found that the conventional practice of psychiatric medicine, in his practice, cured nobody. And it pissed him off, frankly. So he thought, I'm going to do things different. So we're not going to focus on what's wrong. We're not going to keep focusing on what's wrong because no one's getting any better. We're going to focus on where you want to be. And guess what happened? All of his patients improved. Power versus Force is an amazing book. Another one I recommend to you, Dr. David Hawkins. Where do you want to go? Why do you want that anchor? Why does anybody want that anchor? You don't want the anchor. You want to fly. You want to let your balloon fly. And that's what you want to focus on. Now, having said that, your subconscious programs most of your life, 95% of your life, comes from your vibration caused by your conditioning. We need to understand that, because that's what's going to get in the way. Our conscious mind is like 5%. And your conscious mind, contrary to what a lot of people teach, will never change your subconscious programming. You have to do it differently. So your subconscious programming was in place by the time you were anywhere from 6 to 8 years old. So whose thoughts and whose reactions and whose emotions and emotional reactions are in there? Yours? No. Your family, your parents, your teachers, your coaches, your clergy, whoever, society. And we're raising kids on the frickin' media? Oh my God. Like, we need to stop. We need to stop that nonsense. So we're growing up and we're having emotional reactions to things that happen in life that we were told to have, or that we were having and programmed to have when we were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have to examine that. As James Arthur Ray used to say, people go, why me? Why do these things keep happening to me? And he said, because it is you. It is you. And you've just learned tonight why. The strength of your thought and your emotion. What you say is evidence of that. What you do is evidence of that. Is how you are programming the universe. And as Joe Dispenza says, when you get up every day and you do the same things and you have the same thoughts and you see the same people and you say the same things and you go to the same store and you sleep in the same bed and you eat the same food, every friggin' day you're the same person. So there's the definition of insanity. Doing things again and again and again and expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. We have to change that programming. That's really the important part. And this is how you do it. Make sense? Because you're leveraging what's in the universe. You're leveraging the science that is available to us, which is the nature of reality. Okay, so very quickly, the fear and the struggle that I talked about in the title that I shouldn't have, but was funny to do. Anyway. Just like the praying for something. Think about, become the watcher of your thoughts, Eckhart Tolle, and think about what you think about. And you will find you spend, perhaps, those who don't do this work, most of your day thinking about what you don't want, what you don't like, who you don't like, how you don't feel good, how you're tired, I don't want to go to my work, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do, everything's bleh, everything's I don't want. Now understand, there are 3 ways to look at life. Number 1, what goes around comes around. Okay, that's how the cosmos works. That's how planets go around the sun. This is how energy works. It goes in a circular elliptical pattern. There's no beginning, there's no end. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It merely changes form. Okay, that's a scientific platform for what goes out comes back. So watch what you do and how the universe rewards what it is you're thinking, feeling, saying, and doing. The second is the law of attraction. What goes out comes back in equal measure. So, what you're feeling in the moment, because remember, feeling is the most important part. What you're feeling in the moment is your order form to the universe. Oh, you're feeling shitty. Okay, I'm going to give you more of that. Oh, I'm feeling fear. I'm struggling right now. Half the time we can't even name that. We don't even know we're in that state, which is why we have to become more conversant about the feelings and the emotions that we're going through every day. That's the order form to the universe. Make sense? What goes out comes back.
But we can't always be high. So we have. Do we not?
You can create more of what you want.
Have more higher peaks than lower peaks?
It's not that. It's a more sustained level of happiness and health. You can create that. Yeah. And part of this is you're going to still have the challenges, but how you go through them will be with more ease and grace.
Shorter.
You can save your life, and maybe you're going to shorten the duration. Exactly. And yes, life, you raised an interesting issue. Life is about creation and destruction, or growth and integration and growth and integration. And I learned this lesson 2 years ago. It's like, oh my God, I saw that when I felt really crappy about things, I knew something good was coming. Sure enough, it did, 100%. And sometimes when I was riding that wave, it was like, oh, I know where this is going. And it's true. It's like inflation. Inflation can't grow forever. At some point, we have to reintegrate. And then you start your new thing of growth. And yeah, so. But don't get caught, Charisse, don't get caught in that, well, that's not real. That's not reality. Reality is that life is shitty. No, it's not. Depends what you see. And I'm not saying you say, but you raised a valid point. It's what you want to do for now is just inculcate more moments of bliss and learn to create in grace and ease. This thing, there's a lot of, it makes me laugh actually, there's a lot of information these days about push and scale and it's all about hard work and keep working hard and keep working, and that's great. Guess what? Do you know who that works for? The people who believe in that, and they're often people with addictions. I said that out loud. I listened to one guy last year speak who was very successful, who's talking about scaling business. And the whole time I felt sick sitting in his talk because it's not me. And he said, what I realized I did was I traded one addiction for another. And I went, He was an addicted youth, and he turned into an addicted worker, and now he's got millions of dollars, which is great. But I sure as hell don't want to go through what he did. But that matched, so I thought about that, and what I realized was that probably matched his belief system of what he had to do to create something really great. So it depends where you are, again, in your belief system. I'm learning to create in ease and grace. Who's with me? Yeah, you're going to save your life. It's like driving with one foot in the gas and one foot in the brake. You're going to wear out your brake, which is why I do the heart math work I do. So the counter intentions are, so there's the law of attraction. Your order form to the universe. What's the science behind that? For every action, there's an equal reaction. This is Newton's second law. And the third one is, just a way to look at life, is we live in a holographic universe. So everything around us is a mirror for what's going on in here. So the things that are happening in your life that you love, give yourself a pat on the back because you've put it there. The things that are not so good, just show where you have to work. But life will always show you where you are, and that's the beauty of life. So just become more aware. This is the consciousness part. And your life is how you see it. No one will ever see life the way you see it through your eyes. We can't know what other people are thinking and seeing and feeling. We can't know. So our life is uniquely ours. And we have to stop looking at life through the lens of struggle and fear. So understand, knowing what we know now about quantum science, creative mental visualization, now we understand what not to do. We don't want to pray for rain. So the things that we want, we have to gauge and measure that energy and the thought we're sending out about what we want. if we are feeling the lack or the loss of what isn't in our life, that's the message going to the universe. That's what's going to come around, or that's what's going to come right back to you. Does that make sense? Do you guys get that? And then work on you. Work on raising your vibration, whatever way that you can. Because again, there's that, what's Abraham's levels of emotional development? What's it?
Maslow's.
No.
It's
Abraham,
levels
levels of consciousness. Yeah, in order to create. So the lowest is that level of guilt and shame. And then I forget what the highest is, but the fact is that peace and harmony. Okay, thank you. And there are several of those, and just understand that wherever you are, and David Hawkins also has a level of consciousness. Actually, he says it even better. Where you are is what you attract, because we're all involved in attractor patterns. Again, Power versus Force, good book to read. Wherever we are in our emotional, mental conditioning is where we attract. So gauge that. Look at your friends, look at your business, look at what's happening for you. And then you're going to know where you're scaled. It's a cool new word to use. And just guard against. And also, again, becoming the watcher of your thoughts. Become more aware of your emotional feelings every day. Notice when you are not feeling great. Whether you're mad, sad, anxious, whatever. And take steps to fix it. And the last thing I'm going to say to you is this is the beauty of heart math. They've been teaching this for some of the research is again hundreds of years old, and Dr. Childrey has brought it into the practice of heart math and the knowledge and the skills. This is about creating heart-brain coherence in your body and changing your vibration. And I'm not going to say more about that because I think we've about had it tonight, but it's learning to whatever tools work for you, meditation, heart math, whatever you can use to feel better every day is going to raise that general level for you of health and happiness. And now you know how to do it. It's a matter of gauging where you are in that path, putting your skills to use, and seeing what happens. Questions, comments, observations?
I just wanted to suggest there's a lovely meditation on YouTube. It's under Mind Valley, and it's Bob
Love them.
Proctor. If you just type in Bob Proctor Abundance, it's a really simple one to kind of get started.
Lovely.
Something that he did as beautiful as, right? Anyway, it really gets that vibration.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I love Mind Valley stuff. They just have such great stuff. So make yourself a promise. Make yourself a contract, write it down. For those of you who don't already meditate, or at least take 5 minutes a day to create personal space of quiet and focus, start tomorrow. Because that's your container. That's your container within which you're going to work on your new life and create more in ease and grace. And for some of us, so wrapped up in life, and I've been there and I still am. I've got monkey brain and I'm an A-type personality. Sometimes you feel like you just want to kill yourself, but you just make yourself sit there. If all you can do is sit quietly for 5 minutes, alone, no music, no nothing, just quiet. Even if you're losing your mind, set a timer, 5 minutes, because that, again, that's your container. Do you get that container piece? That's your container for what you're going to fill it with. That's your time for yourself, and do it every day. Who doesn't have 5 minutes a day? Right. So come on. That's the start of your new practice. If you want your life to change, you have to change your life. And as you get, and sometimes just sitting there in the quiet is crazy making stuff, for sure. So maybe you want to listen to a guided meditation, but spend the whole 5 minutes. Or spend it doing your visualization. Change it up every day if you want, but start your practice tomorrow. Because again, this is how we change the world, by changing ourselves. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. Yeah.